Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to finish up today with a special selection, and that's where one of you tell me exactly what I need to check out. If you have your own suggestion for special selections, you can find a link to submit that in the description below. Today's comes at us from Mika. It says X-Ray, Where the Time Goes with 12 Ensemble. And this is really interesting because X-Ray is actually on my short list as far as checking out albums on my own time. The Discord album club checked out Daughter not too long ago, and so that went into my list based on some of the conversations going on in there. I got a little intrigued by it, and then X-Ray popped up, which was the singer's side project after Daughter. So I was like, okay, I'll toss that in my list as well. And I almost checked out this album, not the 12 Ensemble, the original version of this album, like last week. And something came up and I didn't have time for it. So it's really interesting that I'm still going to get to check out something from this group today. So let's dive into this. This is X-Ray, Where the Time Went. Yeah, so we're at 9-4. Took me a second. Very sparse, very vulnerable. Make them wonder where the time goes. Keep your distance south of river. Draw a line, we're not together. Beautiful slides across our violin work. So we've added the cello slides over here, and our violins have started to pick up a moving idea. Very dreary though. There's our moving violin line, rhythmically driving. The beautiful rises and falls. Selling my seats to your concert. I won't stomach it if I see you walking so tall I can't reach you. Happier, pretty picture with some new pretty little blues. All right. So that's very neat. So, all right. So I just said so like 5 times. I'm curious where this song sits without the ensemble. I'm going to assume that that is our strings, our violin, our cello, anything else that maybe I missed. Maybe there's a viola in there that I just didn't pick up on. I'm guessing by 12 ensemble, there's 12 string instruments here, which kind of makes me think that there's going to be at least 3 instruments, typically the violin, the viola, and the cello, but could also be a fourth in there and have 3 of each. I don't know, maybe I'm reading into the 12 ensemble, and maybe there's not 12 members in the ensemble. Regardless, though, the song when we remove the strings is just our vocalist and the guitar. Is that what the original is? Is this a singer-songwriter kind of ballad thing? Very sparse, vulnerable uh, vocalist and accompaniment. I don't think it would be bad, and I think it would have a very different flavor than this. But I don't know if I would enjoy it more. But that's all speculative because I don't know what the original is. So let's talk about what's going on here. And here's the major. Well, let me talk about 2 things first. One is our core element, which, like I said, is our guitar and our vocals. Our guitar sits as an underlying component that plays a moving chordal progression. In that it's not just strumming chords, there are some chords in it, but there's also some small melodic movements where maybe it's just a single note or something that kind of dances around our key chord. We bounce back and forth between 2 chords on this, and our vocalist typically takes a single melodic line and continues to utilize it over and over and over for the section, changing only the lyrics and an occasional embellishment on it. What I'm saying here is that this core element, what is center channel, not only just core as in the basis of the song instrumentally, but also the core aspect sonically in that it is the center of the song, is static. There is mild change from section to section, but for the most part, this idea does not develop. The external components, which is the strings, what I believe is added to the original track, and what exists on the outside of our sound sphere is incredibly dynamic. We can even look at some of the other static qualities of our guitar and vocals by looking at volume, by looking at intensity, by looking at uh, how the notes are played for the guitar, how they're plucked for the vocals, how they're created. What part of their vocal process are they utilizing? What muscles are they utilizing? Where's the placement of the tone? Again, static across the board. This is an aspect of the song that is unmoving. We compare that with the outside, which not only grows as the song goes on. We start off with just a violin section. I think it sounds like more than one violin, but that's it. We have a single violin idea. Might be multiple instruments, but the single idea. And then we add a second violin idea, and then we add some cello. We add some lower end ideas. So we're constantly growing this. It is evolving in different directions. We're passing ideas around where I had mentioned that at the beginning the violins were doing one thing, they passed that over to the cello so that they could do something that was more rhythmically driving rather than holding out these notes. There is this, I don't know if it's, nah, it's not around, but there is this element of sort of passing an idea around to each instrument as they come in, and they begin to fill in what the other instruments left behind as they progress to the next idea. It's really beautiful writing there. Not to mention, there's a lot of dynamic qualities here. We have intensity, we have volume, swells all over the place. There's this beautiful moment, probably about 70% of the way in, where we have these held notes that slide into higher notes or lower notes occasionally and rise the volume, get these very steady crescendos and then decrescendos, pulling back on the volume. And it is this rising and falling that's going on, and I really love how it paints a very different picture of what's going on. Because I have no idea what the lyrics are about. There were a couple of lines I picked up on. I think this is actually kind of fits well within this Songs to Cry To week because it seems to be very moody about a falling out between two people. A couple of things I picked up on that kind of lead me to that. But the idea is that this core section is static and unmoving, and it just kind of sits in that somberness. But I think, I don't know, we'll dig into some lyrics later. But I think it's interesting that it's almost like a betrayal of the music, where, you know, in a real situation, in a conversation with somebody, your body language can betray your intentions. You might want to feel big and strong, and you look meek. Maybe you look anxious. You want to be in control of a situation, but it looks like you don't have that control physically. Maybe you're pacing, right? I think that's what's happening here. I think if the vocal guitar idea is the original song, that is her feeling almost passive about this sadness, right? It just is. But we bring the strings in, and it betrays that. It shows the rising and falling tensions of this, how it is not something that is a static element within her at all, that it is constantly fluctuating, that she feels different things at different times about the events that are happening. I really love that adaptation, again, assuming that the original is just the guitar and the vocals. But it's also supported, even if the original isn't like that, it's supported in a way this is mixed, where we start off with just the vocals and the guitar centered, giving us our original story, so to speak, the way that she wants to present herself, and then the strings coming in on the side, showcasing the reality of the situation. I think that's a really beautiful way of going about writing that. I want to touch on the strings real quick, and then the vocals, and I guess we'll hit the lyrics. It's going to be a short video, I think. I really love the variety of the string performance. Not only do they tend to play more notes and tend to color the atmosphere, the emotional atmosphere of the song, more so than our lead vocal and our underlying guitar work, but they also utilize the variety of techniques that I think really adds to the song. We have really short rhythmic ideas. We have swells and slurs. I guess slides, I guess technically would be, because it's a string instrument. But the idea of moving from one to the next with as little attack as possible, one note to another with as little attack as possible. We also have these long held out lines, just kind of holding a tone out and having a couple of the different instruments in the section, in the instrument section, not the musical section, play different notes as we progress through it. So maybe we have two cello notes sitting at the bottom and they're holding out a dyad, but the bottom one moves a little bit, moves down, and then the top one moves up, and we're slowly creating new dyads through small movements. Not everybody is changing the chord at the same time. Some of them continue to hold on, and it shows a metamorphosis of the chord rather than a progression. And I love that. I do a lot of that in my own writing because I think it sounds so smooth to have these almost feeling natural translations between one chord to the next, rather than saying we're in this chord and then all three notes change to get to this next chord. Here, there's always something that holds on to what came before. So to me, it feels more of this natural evolution of the progression that I think is really interesting. Um, oh, one last idea there is, I thought we had heard everything, and then like 30 seconds from the end, we get these really fast back and forth bowing. I don't know if there's a technical term for that, but I do enjoy that we had quarter notes and long held out notes, and then eventually we got, I think, which were 16th notes, just that really fast bowing back and forth. With the guitar, we typically call that tremolo picking, depending on the speed, I suppose. 16th notes are not always tremolo picked, but at most metal tempos, that would be. Um, and just having that as a little introduction into the idea. We didn't use it for long. We had like, I don't know, 4 to 8 notes in that really fast tempo, and it sort of introduced us into this next section that the violins were taking us into. So yeah, just a lot of violin techniques. I think the only thing really missing from general violin technique or string technique is plucking. I didn't hear any of that. Everything sounded bowed. Um, but yeah, just plenty of bowing techniques going on in here, which was beautiful. Like I've mentioned before, if you're gonna add strings to a mainstream genre, and I'm including metal in mainstream. Metal is a very mainstream genre. It may not be as big of a mainstream genre, but it's big, right? I think we can agree on that. It shows up in popular culture, so it's big. Uh, when you add strings, I'm listening for ideas that are going to complement the string section. If you just give the strings the same thing that your guitars are going to be playing, sometimes that'll work, but occasionally, a lot of bands, not, well, occasionally and a lot, you gotta pick one, Bryan. What I've heard often is that strings end up getting chords to sit in the background. And like your rhythm guitarist was going to do that anyway. Sometimes your rhythm guitarist does it with the strings. And yeah, you get the texture layering there, and I'm for that, but it also kind of feels like a waste of bringing in this very versatile instrument and utilizing it to do something that everyone else can already do. And that's not to say that violins are that different from guitars as far as capabilities, but there's definitely a lot of cool things you can do with a bowed instrument you can't easily do or as easily do with a picked one. Um, so I really love how they include the strings here and then actually write parts that complement the instrument, instead of it feeling like they were shoehorned in just because I like the string sound, so let's put some strings in here, and they're just going to do what our guitar is doing, or just going to hold chords or whatever. No, whoever composed this understands how strings are typically utilized in music, and wrote parts that are appropriate for each of the instruments. It is a really beautiful track that, like I said, understands the instrumentation of it all. Um, the last thing is the vocals. It's really interesting how they get drowned out. I guess it's more on the production side. When they started, I talked about how they were big and reverberant. I don't think that's a word. They have a lot of reverb on them. In fact, I almost felt I don't think I vocalized this. I don't think I audibly stated it, but I almost felt like the vocals were too big at the beginning. They overpowered the guitar so much. They felt like they were so close to me as well. As far as placement goes, it felt very personal and vulnerable, but also a bit uncomfortable. It was uncomfortably close to me, like someone singing directly in my face. Um, but it was interesting how that sentiment I had shifted over time. As more and more instruments came in, I felt that the vocals quickly became one of the quietest instruments, and I wish they were a bit louder. They quickly got drowned out once we hit even two groups of instruments, our violins and our cellos. And I'm curious if that was intentional as a thematic thing, or if that was maybe something in the original. Maybe there was another instrument that came in rather than the strings. I don't know, but going back to the idea that it's possible that the strings are the physical betrayal of her intentions, right? She wants to appear a bit stoic about this, but inside she's a mess. Um, the strings, the part that's going against what she wants to showcase, covering up her vocals fits right alongside that theme right there. And it works so well. It doesn't cover it up enough that it becomes difficult to listen to, or that becomes difficult to make out words. I think it's still done with a strong sense of clarity to it, which just to me makes it tasteful. It's done for the artistic side without going too far into making it less of a song and more of an art piece. And that's kind of a weird conversation to have. What's the difference between art and music? Well, I should say art and a song, but I guess that's a topic for another day. But yeah, the general idea here is that we've listened to some music where the idea of overpowering the vocals and pushing them into the mix and hiding them actually ended up hiding the vocals, where it became difficult to hear what they were doing or what they were saying. And while there's a very strong artistic thematic approach to that, it also makes it difficult to understand the lyrics, which they were written and included in the song. You kind of expect to want to know what they are. You expect the vocalist or the lyricist at least wants people to know what they are. So then you have to go find a set of lyrics to figure out what's being said there because no one can make it out. And so yeah, that, like I said, it's when the art kind of overshadows the song. So let's dive into some lyrics here. Not a lot. You could open with your feelings, make them understand, show the love notes, make them picture with their eyes closed, make them wonder where the time goes. Keep your distance south of river, draw a line, they're not connected. Make it screech, stop, wait, turn red. Make me wonder where the time went. I don't know. We do have a shift there. You could do all of this. You could open with your feelings, and I believe that the you becomes implied. You could make them understand. You could show them the love notes. You could make them picture with their eyes closed, right? You can do all these things. You could draw a line that they're not together. You could make it screech, stop, wait, and turn red. You could make me wonder where the time went. The you is now directly referencing the me. But what any of this means, I don't know. We do have two people, though. And it seems that one person uh, could do whatever they wanted to. Oh, because it goes into the chorus. Okay, so this next line is very important. You could do all that, yet you will not save me a standoff. Be not a stranger, land here. I will leave this empty handed, feeling selfish and extremely common. It's such an interesting way she writes because it feels like. Well, I'm going to assume that she's the lyricist. Of course. Oh, no, yeah, written by. Yep, Elena Tonra. So yeah, this is these are her lyrics. So it almost feels like there's just as much important in what she doesn't include as what she does include. It almost feels like the lyrics purposefully dance around intentionality. There's glimpses of what things could be about, but you really have to bring yourself to the table and apply your own biases. You need to bring your own ideas to the art to get something out of them. But I don't know what that. You will not save me a standoff. You will not stop me from having a moment where we are at an impasse, where we cannot both progress. It's such a weird way of saying that. And I don't even entirely know what it means. You could do all this, and regardless, we'll still be staring at each other, blocking each other's path, is what she's saying. I don't know. And there's no stranger land than here. I will leave feeling empty handed, selfish, and common. Leave me question where your heart lends, how you open wounded withstand. Lead me into some false pretense, I'll ruin you in a second. Leave it up to interpretation, open ended invitation, and your wedding, I could crash it. Whisper in your ear, God, I missed you, it's been too long, I can't stand it. So that's interesting. There's a lot of anger here. Um, it says, if you lead me into a false pretense, so if you lie to me about your situation, I'll ruin you in a second and I'll make it look like I was not the one who ruined you. I'll leave the incident up to interpretation, such as I'd crash your wedding and try to get you to get back with me. So it looks like uh, you know, you cheated on your wife or whatever, right? That I mean, there's planning there, there's intention, there's malice. That is just kind of lays it out there. That kind of goes against some of the somber moodiness of the track, but I think they kind of go hand in hand. This is not supposed to be an aggressive, angry line. You're supposed to feel the seething underneath it, but it's supposed to be said very calmly, matching the musical themes. The bridge says, then I cried in a staff room, selling my seats to your concert. I won't stomach it if I see you, walking so tall I can't reach you. Happier, pretty picture with some new pretty little blue. So here's some duality here. This is interesting because up until this point, it almost feels like there's a lot of stoicness, like I had mentioned. There's somebody else who this person is not very fond of. It says you could do all of these things, and yet you would still be in my way, and I'd still be in your way. We would still stop each other from progressing in life. Um, and if you did anything that would set me up to understand a lie, or if you lied to me in any way, I would ruin your entire reputation. Right? There's a lot of power in this. There's a lot of strength. There's control of the situation, and then we hit the bridge, and we see that that's not the truth underneath. It looks like this other person is a musician of some sort. She buys a ticket to see them, and then sells it because she can't stomach to even see this other person. She can't physically view them, presumably because their life is going well. It says that you're walking so tall that I can't even reach you. You're happier. You have you have this pretty picture of your life now, and you have some new pretty little blue, which I'm going to assume means that they have found a new love. Um, So, yeah, basically your life is going all well, and maybe hers isn't. Maybe it's just not as perfect. Maybe it's not in a terrible state. It's just not as good. Not that it should be a competition, but sometimes if your breakups are not amicable, it sometimes can feel like a competition. You gotta show them that you're doing better without them, kind of vibe. And she apparently is not. And she feels very off put about this. So it's interesting that in the lyrics we do see this front she puts up in a majority of it, and for a moment in this bridge, we see what's actually going on, the turmoil inside, which is showcased by the strings in the it's so good. It just lines up so well. And then our outro once again, you will not save me a standoff, you will not save me a standoff, which is still just a really weird line. um yeah, that's what I think this is about. You break up with someone, and this is her releasing those feelings out into the void of the music world, I suppose, but also trying to put on a little bit of a front and making it look like she's better off with the relationship having ended than she is. There's still some stuff she's got to work through as far as the relationship goes and being able to even see this other person, right? Yeah, very interesting, very somber, sad, and beautiful use of instrumentation, both to create beautiful tones and atmospheres, but also to imply the lyrical ideas in the music before we even get there to the lyrics. It's just beautiful foreshadowing. So, those are my thoughts on X-Rays, where the time went. That's where you guys come in. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed this or not. Anything that stood out to you, anything that you'd like to add on or correct me on, let me know. Above the comment section is a description box. In there is a link for Linktree. Takes you to this menu here. Has links for everything related to the channel. You can pick up some merch, support the channel through Patreon, follow me on Twitter, join the Discord community, submit special selections, and so much more. Go ahead and check it out. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. All right, that wraps it up for today. We'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. We're going to wrap up Songs to Cry To week, and we're going to check out our creator request. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.